Hello and welcome back to Global with me, Matthew Amreliwala. Now, they're some of Libya's best and brightest. A new documentary for BBC World News follows 23 graduates from Benghazi as they embark on a year-long management science course at Cambridge University here in the UK. The idea is to bring back skills to help build Libya's scientific research base. But as the country descends further into civil war, what sort of situation do they actually return to? Well, in just a moment, we'll talk to Dania, who's one of those students involved in this project, and here in the studio to Dominic Asquith, a former British ambassador to Libya. But first, let's have a glimpse of this BBC documentary. In 2011, Benghazi was the cradle of a revolution. The battle for Libya soon spread like wildfire across the whole country. But while victory promised so much, the prospect of peace and meaningful change looks increasingly bleak. But 2 years after the fall of Gaddafi, a quieter revolution is taking place. 23 of Libya's finest science and technology graduates are about to spend a year at Cambridge University.
We're going with our luggage to Cambridge Business School.
Sent by Tطوير, a new Libyan research and development company, these young people could well hold the key to Libya's future.
We're here for a specific goal, to become better so we can help Libya to develop itself.
We follow the first part of our graduate story as they get used to life in Cambridge.
We haven't got like anyone to cook or clean for us. It's a bit tough.
But leaving behind events at home proves difficult.
Oh, did you fight in the war? Did you kill anyone?
And their mission becomes more urgent as the situation back home takes a turn for the worse.
Everyone wants power. They are playing Game of Thrones.
Just a short excerpt of that documentary. Dominic Asquith is here with me. Dania is in our studios. Thank you so much for being with us. Dania, to you, first of all, having taken part in this very, very interesting project. You're now back at home. What was the experience like?
Thank you very much for having me. It was very rich and very enlightening for us to go to Cambridge University and to experience the Cambridge experience and to come up with such knowledge that we actually want to give back to Libya and share it with them what we learned. So it was very, I will say it was very rich for me personally and academically. Personally, of course, I've managed to make friendship with the rich people. We managed to actually explore the culture there and visit multiple places in UK to see
I'll come back to what you learned.
And to experience the UK.
Sure, I'll come back to what you learnt in a moment. But, I mean, how difficult was it to be here in the UK, just watching on your television screens, talking to family on the phone, watching your country just descend into utter chaos?
It's difficult for us to watch, but to be honest, instead of doing nothing, we actually pushed ourselves to learn. So when we come back to Libya, we could offer something to build on. We didn't want to stay and wait. We want to take a step. So when the situation becomes more stable, we could offer something to our country.
Now, you want to be a lawyer, or you are a lawyer. I mean, tell me the sorts of things that actually you actually learnt whilst you were in the UK.
We did an academic and business management course in Judge Business School at Cambridge University, and also I had a work placement in different companies. One of them was Delay Piper and the other was Taylor Ventures, for me to actually go and practice my specialty of being a lawyer and actually going through or practicing commercial and technology laws. So this is actually one of the main things that Tطوير is focusing on, is actually to change the Libyan economic from depending only on on oil industry, and change it to knowledge economy.
Well, I'll come back to that point in a moment, but I'm going to bring Dominic Asquith here in with me, former UK ambassador to Libya. I mean, when you look at Libya now, it is a failed state, it's an exporter of terror, it's a funnel for migrants. It is a total mess.
There's always hope, and Libya's on the verge of another possible breakthrough in political terms, where stability can be restored, political stability can be restored, and Dania and her colleagues can put into practice the experience, the expertise, the capabilities that they've developed, learnt here in Britain.
Why has it descended into such a mess? One remembers Cameron and Sarkozy going there after the overthrow of Gaddafi. Great triumph, great hope. I mean, how has it got from there to the sort of chaos that we have been talking about?
It's been a gradual and inexorable descent. You're correct, for a variety of reasons, which it's probably not got the time to expound here, but because broadly of a conflicting set of interests amongst some of the political and militia leaders on the ground. Where we are at the moment, which is probably a more profitable position to look at, is on the verge of a political agreement which the international community has commissioned the UN to try and put together.
On the verge of several other things. I mean, Tunisia, after the terror attack on Sousse, was talking about building a wall between the two countries. You have the Europeans talking about bombing the human traffickers. I mean, either of those solutions in any way helpful?
No, those aren't solutions. Those are dealing with the symptom. There's a much deeper problem, which is affecting the region as a whole, which is how do you operate in a pluralistic world to combine and to compromise, to combine various interests and to compromise with others who have divergent interests. And that's the task both of local leaders in the various countries in the Middle East, but also the international community, who has a huge responsibility in helping those new governments and those new political leaderships who are coming through to work to create the sort of stability that will allow those countries to regenerate.
Let's go back to Dania. Dania, there is always hope, and you were talking about what the hope is and why you've taken part in this project. I know your mother is a lawyer, that's why you have become a lawyer. You want to be a human rights lawyer, but how far away is the prospect of actually practicing in Libya, all of those things, even this scientific park, which was part of the reason you did this project? How far does that seem still away?
We're very aware that we have obstacles and we have very tough challenges to take. But we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop because the situation, it's a little bit, I'm going to say it's chaos right now in Libya. But will not stop us. What we actually when we actually went to Cambridge, we went to learn and to get better actually in our career, so we can come back to Libya and try to make it better.
And take some of those skills. I know you went to the House of Lords and places like that to actually to see debates. It was difficult at different stages on a human level to live on your own for someone like you. And I know from watching the documentary that before you came, you were rather worried about English food. What was that like in the end? Was it as bad as you thought?
Unfortunately, I'm going to say yes. It's very cold food. We're not very used to it. We love like hot and spicy food.
Well,
but to be honest, going back to the hope, we're not going to give up hope. And as I said before, we're going to take it step by step. We're not going to stop. When the situation gets more settled, at least Libya will find people to build it on. And this is what Tطوير graduate program is aimed to give opportunity for young talented youth to learn and get better so they can serve their country.
And that's what you've done. Dominic Asquith, just a final quick word. I mean, perhaps when you look at the situation in Libya, is one of the lessons to learn is that actually there's got to be far more thinking in terms of just beyond the military, because it was the military, the bombing that overthrew Gaddafi, and not much thought after that. Is that a lesson to learn when we look at a situation in the Middle East with IS?
There was a lot of thought in the Libyan context to the day after the military operations. And there were many lessons that were learned in the Libyan context from our experience in Iraq. So I think it's important to keep that in perspective. Did we get it right in the international community? No, not by the evidence that we're looking at today. But it would be wrong to think that there wasn't planning beyond the military period.
Well, Dominic Asquith, thank you so much for coming in and talking both about the documentary and also about the situation in Libya. And Dania, to you, thanks very much for joining us here on today's global. And just a pointer, because you can watch 3 episodes of Young, Clever and Libyan, that documentary, on consecutive weekends from the 25th and 26th of July on BBC World News at the times there on the screens. Well, don't forget, you can get in touch with me and the rest of the team on Twitter. I'm at Amrodiwala BBC. You can see what we're working in and also feed in to the debate and happily get your views on air. But don't go away, we'll have plenty more on that Alzheimer's story here on the programme in a minute or two.